Today we're doing a little bit of a different style video. We're making two of TikTok's most famous pastas. Now I've tried both of these pastas on two separate occasions, and you know, they're both very, very good. So we're gonna do this a little bit different today. I'm gonna do a long form video and show you guys how to make both of them. And I figured we'd do it in the style that I make my TikToks, just to kind of change it up a little bit. So without further ado, let's get to cooking. First, we're gonna start off with the easier pasta. We're gonna do the Boursin pasta. So you're gonna get yourself a 9x13 casserole dish like this one here. And then we're gonna add two of these little Boursin cheese blocks. This cheese is absolutely excellent. I can't explain to you how good the cheese is by itself, but definitely worth giving a try, even if you just spread it over crackers. So first thing we gotta do, let's go ahead and open this up. Now this cheese is kind of expensive though. It might be, I don't know, you can get it on sale maybe for $5 a block. So it's not very cheap, but it's well worth it. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna add your cheese right to the middle of the casserole dish, just like that. So next we're gonna add a few of these cherry tomatoes. You can use a combination of tomatoes. I have the yellow, the red, and some of these champagne tomatoes. All I did was rinse them under cold water just to wash them off. And we're gonna add these right to the casserole dish. Just go ahead and spread them out nice and even. As this roasts, the tomatoes are gonna soften and it's gonna melt right into the sauce. Now we're gonna add a few shallots that we finally sliced up earlier, and then I'm gonna add just a little bit of garlic that we minced up earlier as well. Add as much garlic as you want. Now here's the thing with seasoning. The Boursin cheese is already really seasoned, but we're gonna add a little bit of Italian seasoning right along the edge here. And also I'm gonna add a little bit of fennel seeds. Now, my wife doesn't like fennel, and according to you guys on TikTok, nobody really likes fennel either, but I'm telling you, just add a few little fennel seeds, not much, just add a little bit. It's gonna add a lot of flavor, trust me.
Once I tasted it in this, I'm okay with the fennel.
Gotcha.
But I still don't like fennel.
So I'm gonna add extra just because she said that. All right, we're gonna add just a little bit of olive oil, and then we're gonna add a little bit of salt just over the tomatoes. Now the cheese is salty, keep that in mind. You just wanna hit it on the tomatoes. And lastly, a little bit of black pepper, just like that. So you're gonna take the casserole dish, you're gonna place it in the oven set to 375 degrees for around 30 to 35 minutes. And what you'll notice is the tomatoes will get nice and roasted, the cheese will melt into the tomatoes. Now we're gonna mix this all up and add some pasta. So while the Boursin pasta is roasting in the oven, this is a good opportunity to start our TikTok pasta. But first we have to make a rub or a seasoning blend that's gonna go in the pasta. So let me show you how to make that. To the bowl, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, about 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of oregano. We're gonna add a little bit of paprika. You can use smoked paprika if you want. We're gonna use about 1/2 teaspoon of that, then about 1/2 teaspoon of ground coriander, and then about maybe 1/4 to 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and just a little bit of some dried basil. Now we're gonna give this all a mix until combined, and we're gonna use this to season our pasta sauce. Now to start off making the red sauce, we're gonna add a little bit of a neutral oil. This is some avocado oil. And then once the oil is hot, we're gonna add 1 pound of some ground beef. Now what I like to do here is I like to press the ground beef into the pan to get a nice sear on the bottom. It's gonna add a lot of flavor. You wanna get that Maillard reaction. So you wanna let the meat sit here on this side to get a nice caramelization. It's gonna add a ton of flavor to your sauce. So let it sear for around, I don't know, 1 to 2 minutes, and it should be plenty to get that nice crust on the meat. We're gonna season the ground beef with just a little bit of salt and black pepper. Now you see that? You wanna get that nice little crusty bit. So once the ground beef is browned like this, we're gonna turn down the heat to medium, and we're gonna go ahead and remove this from the pan. I like to brown the ground beef first. I mean, some people will put the onions in here and the ground beef all at the same time, but when you do that, you don't properly, sweat down and caramelize the onions. All right, so now the pan's on medium heat, like I said. Add a little bit more oil, not much, and then we're gonna add about 1/2 of a white onion. Now all we did was dice this up nice and fine earlier, and just a little pinch of salt on the onions. This is gonna help to draw out some of the moisture. So after about 5 minutes, once the onions are caramelized and slightly translucent, we're gonna go in with some bell pepper that we also diced up nice and fine earlier. Go ahead and mix those into the onions. So after about another 5 minutes or so, or once the bell peppers are softened, we're gonna go in with the rest of the minced garlic, which is about, I don't know, 2 or 3 cloves, and all of our seasonings here that we made earlier. All right, so we're gonna toss all this together here, maybe saute for around, I don't know, 30 seconds or so until the garlic is nice and fragrant. Then we're gonna add about 29 ounces of tomato sauce. You can use whatever tomato sauce you want. Some people were using the pre-made marinara, some people were using just pizza sauce. I like to use just plain old tomato sauce, and I like to season it myself. We're gonna season with just a little more salt, black pepper, and a little bit of sugar. We're gonna go ahead and give it a mix until this is all combined. Then add your ground beef right back to the sauce. So we're gonna let this simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes, just until the sauce comes together and all those flavors kind of marry. And while it's doing what it's doing, we're gonna work on the Alfredo sauce. So this Alfredo sauce is just really just a basic Alfredo. There's nothing real special to it. We're gonna start off with a little bit of oil in the bottom of our pan, and we're gonna add 1 clove of minced garlic. So after about 30 seconds, once the garlic is nice and fragrant, we're gonna go in with 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. We're gonna bring this to a gentle simmer. So now that our sauce is simmering gently, we're gonna fold in about a cup of some Parmesan cheese and just a little bit of shredded mozzarella that we shredded up earlier. All right, we're gonna gently stir this here. We're at this point, we can kill the heat, and we're gonna just keep stirring this until the cheese is melted into the sauce. We're not really concerned with making it a super thick sauce. Because we have the red sauce, we're trying to make this a little bit thinner than normal Alfredo sauce. But really, like I said, basic Alfredo. If I was making this as a normal Alfredo, I would make sure that I added enough cheese to make this nice and thick. And I'm not too concerned about it with this dish. See, as you can see, it does coat the back of a spoon, which is okay. So we're gonna give this a taste here. And that's perfect, doesn't need any more salt, doesn't need any pepper. You gotta keep in mind all the other ingredients that are going into this. The red sauce has a ton of flavor, a lot of spices, some salt, keep everything balanced. They don't teach you that on TikTok. So for the pasta, the process is really the same. We're gonna bring some water to a boil, we're gonna season it with just a little bit of salt. We're gonna add about 1 pound of some penne pasta. So for the Boursin one, we're actually gonna cook the pasta all the way, so about 10 minutes. And once our Boursin pasta is done, we're gonna add the noodles to it and mix it up. For the Varo spaghetti, we're just gonna go ahead and season the water with a little bit of salt, and then we're gonna drop in our spaghetti. So we're gonna let this boil for about 5 minutes, and then we're gonna drain the pasta, and then we're gonna add it right to the casserole dishes. So now in another 9x13 casserole dish, we're gonna add all of our sauce here with the ground beef and everything, all our seasonings. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and spread this out nice and even. As you can see here, the spaghetti is still hard there. You can kind of even hear it snap. Let's listen. It's still very hard, so it's not cooked all the way, but don't worry, it'll cook all the way in the oven. So now we're just gonna go ahead and add our pasta right on top, or our spaghetti right on top of the ground beef and the red sauce. Then you're gonna add the Alfredo right on top. I wish you guys can smell this. It smells absolutely amazing. All right, so just do your best. I know it's gonna be kind of hard to mix in here, but that's okay. And I think this probably will feed around, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 people maybe. It's kind of a rich pasta dish, so it'll feed a few. If you're making this for your family, it's definitely easy to do. Okay, so now once you have this all kind of mixed the best that you can, we're gonna go ahead and top this with some mozzarella that we shredded up earlier. This was about, I don't know, 6 to 8 ounces of mozzarella that we shredded up. And then just to make it healthy, we're gonna add a little bit of parsley on top. So now we're gonna go into the same oven heated to 375 for around 25 to 30 minutes, or until the pasta's cooked all the way through, the cheese is melted. Then we're gonna mix it all up, and we're gonna compare it with the Boursin pasta. All right, so the Boursin one's been in the oven for about 25 minutes or so. And the trick here is to take a potato masher, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna mash the tomatoes, and there's some pectin inside the tomatoes that's actually gonna thicken up this sauce, but that's why I reserved a little bit of pasta water just in case I need some more sauce. But as you can see here, it's nice and thick. We're gonna go ahead and just mix this all up. Doesn't have to be perfect, just a little bit, just to get it mixed. Now we're gonna go in with our penne pasta and just a little bit of our pasta water, just a little bit. Now at this point, I like to add a little bit of fresh basil. Now my basil's seen better days here. I got this at the grocery store earlier this week, and for some reason it got all shriveled, but you know, I'm not gonna waste it. Try to get some better quality fresh basil than this, but I'm just gonna add a little bit. It's gonna go a long way. All right, so we're just gonna mix this all together until the sauce is evenly coating all the noodles. I don't know if you guys ever tried this before, but I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised at how good this actually is.
Real quick.
You wanna take a bite? What you think?
Buzz.
All right, let's get the other pasta out of the oven. All right, so the spaghetti's been in the oven for about 30 minutes. It's still bubbling. Make sure you let this cool down. This is like molten lava. So make sure you let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes before you eat it. So unless you want to burn the roof of your mouth, I don't recommend it. So we're gonna let this cool down, and we're gonna taste both pastas, and we're gonna see which one we like better. So saying I'm starving would be an understatement right now. I cannot wait to give these both a taste. That's really good. Now we're gonna take a palate cleanser, just water. Now let's give this one a try here. How am I gonna decide? Which one's better? We're gonna put that aside for a minute. This one right here, for how easy it is and for how quickly it comes together, if you want just a very quick, easy weeknight meal, this is the one you're gonna go to. It tastes very fresh, creamy. Now the downside to this is it's very expensive. That cheese is almost 15 bucks just for the cheese, and it's not including everything else. So it could easily be $30, $40 or more for this dish. So you gotta think about that. But overall, the flavor is like insane on this one. It's incredible. Now, if you have a little bit more time on your hands and you want something that's a little more savory, got some meat and some protein in it, this is the one you gotta go with too. You can taste the Alfredo sauce, you can taste the meat sauce. It's very good, but you gotta have a little more time to do this one. You gotta make the red sauce, you gotta make the Alfredo sauce, you put it in the oven and cook it. So it's really not a fast meal. So in conclusion, they're both good. If I had to pick one, it's just so hard to pick. I think I like this one because it's a little fresher. This time of year, it's getting warmer outside. I want the lighter pasta, but if it was was a winter, snowing outside, I wanted something really cheesy, really meaty, really hearty, I would go with this one. So now, in conclusion, can I say which one's better? I guess it really just depends on the time of year, it depends on what kind of flavors you want, but I will say this, if you're short on time, you make the Boursin pasta, you will not be disappointed. If you want something that's a little more hearty, a little meaty, and you have the time, I would go with this one. So I can't say which one's better, they're both equally as good, it really just depends on what you have a taste for. So with that being said, if you guys like this new style of content, please leave me a comment and let me know what you want to see me cook next. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something, give me a like, subscribe, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.